This is Personal Injury Court.
This is the matter of Baker versus James. Ms. Baker, it's my understanding that you are suing Mr. James for injuries that you sustained while you were working out and he was your trainer. You're asking this court to award you $40,000 for past medicals, $10,000 for future medicals, and $150,000 for pain and suffering for a total award of $200,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. James, it's your position today that you pushed her as hard as she needed to be pushed and what she requested you to do. So whatever she's injured, it's her fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's get into the legal sauce. You're an athlete if you've been working out. How long you been an athlete?
Your Honor, I've been an athlete all my life. In fact, I ended up getting a scholarship for track. I paid.
Oh, so you're a real athlete?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Ms. Baker, why did you hire Mr. James?
As we all know, after college, life happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got married.
Yes, ma'am.
So I picked up some pounds. I was online, and I came across an obstacle course. It kind of motivated me to really start focusing on myself because I let myself go so much. So I hired the defendant here to assist me in making sure that I was ready for that particular event. So,
Mr. James, she found you online.
Yes, sir.
Is
Your Honor.
that where you advertise online?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you get most of your clients or a big portion of your clients online?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Now, how long have you been a trainer?
I've been a trainer for 10 plus years.
I almost said they had a picture of me, but is that a picture of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
What led you to get into training, Mr. James?
Well, I just like inspiring others. The good feeling that I get from training myself and the results that I get, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that would like to feel the exact same things that I feel.
Now, as a trainer, what do you do in a training session? What's your job?
My job is to motivate my trainees to just be positive, push past their thresholds, just get them outside of their comfort zone to know how to be comfortable being uncomfortable because your body is going to experience things that you may have never experienced before, just to push yourself.
Yes, sir. Now, Miss Baker, what happened?
Well, this was about 3 weeks within the program. And so he has like a task of things to do.
So you and Mr. James had a daily routine?
Correct.
Okay.
He had a daily routine. And one of the exercises was called a squat and toss. There's a ball, the tossing of the ball, it's a weighted ball.
Okay.
Okay, so it's
In
not
the
just
old days, we called that a medicine ball.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
A medicine ball. That's the
real old
terminology.
days.
Correct.
Now, Mr. James, when you do this squat and toss, what muscles are you working on your client?
So, Your Honor, with the squat and toss, you simply squat down, your quads and your hamstrings are activated as well as your glutes, and you have to engage in your core to stabilize yourself. And as you come up to stand up to toss the ball, it engages your shoulders as well as your biceps and your triceps.
So where are you tossing the ball?
You're tossing it in the air right over your head, and as the ball comes down, you catch it, and you go back down into the squat position to repeat the exercise.
Now, these are better looking than those leather braided things I grew up with. These are medicine balls here?
Yes, sir. Yes,
or
Your Honor.
what do you call them?
Medicine balls.
Oh, you do call them medicine balls? Okay, I don't feel that old. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Can you show me that exercise, how
Absolutely,
you do that?
Your Honor. So this is the particular weight that she was using. So you will hold it right in front of you, make sure that you have good posture, and as you squat down, you poke your butt out behind you, cause you to engage your core, and as you come up, you toss it in the air, catch it again, and you repeat the exercise.
And do you do sets of that?
Well, I recommend my clients do 20 reps and you do 4 sets.
Now, I see you've got one 10-pound ball, one 20-pound ball, and a 15-pound ball in your hand.
Yes, Your
Who
Honor.
chooses what weight of ball?
So I go off of the capabilities of the client. If I believe that you're capable enough to go a heavier weight, then we'll go heavier weight. If I feel like that you're not so much prepared for a heavier weight, then we'll go lighter.
So are you talking with your client
Absolutely.
during this process?
Absolutely.
How do you know that the weight's too heavy?
Their posture will be off, their breathing would be off. They can't really focus on how to actually go through the exercises. They would struggle.
But you're watching the client very closely during this exercise.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you remember being watched closely?
That's my point, Your Honor. During this entire exercise, I was explaining to him how tired I was.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
exhausted I was. We had just got finished running sprints.
How did you get hurt?
As I was lifting the medicine ball to throw it, my whole arm, my shoulder was strained.
Okay.
When I tell you, This was the worst pain that I could ever feel. And I have 2 kids. It's worse than having kids. Okay? I felt the burning. I felt the detachment of my arm. I went home and I iced it down. I was like, okay, well, you know, let me see how this, if it maybe can wear off, because like I said, it could just be something small, nothing big, right? So I was at home for about 3 days. And then what ended up happening was I had went to the restroom. And when I went to the restroom, my urine was the color of like a soda pop.
From a shoulder injury?
Like brown.
It was brown?
It was brown.
Your urine was brown?
Brown, Your Honor. It scared the
So what did you do?
Well, I ended up going to the emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, they actually kept me for an entire week. To my understanding, it was kidney damage.
According to your papers, it was a long private school word, rhabdomyolysis.
That's it, Your Honor.
Is that what you remember?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, for your ease and mine, since I was public school educated, we'll call it rhabdo.
Rhabdo.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Mr. James, do you remember her getting some kind of strain during this exercise?
I remember doing the exercise that she was stating that she needed to take a break, but also my thing with all of my clients, when they come to me, I have them fill out a waiver and I tell them to tell me exactly what's going on with their bodies and to tell me what level of training that they would like for me to give them.
So what did she tell you she wanted you to do?
She wanted me to be hard on her and don't let her give up.
And did you do that, Ms. Baker? Did you tell him that he needs to push you harder than you had before so you could get the best of yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and that's what you did, Mr. James?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
So at the time that Ms. Baker was working out on this day, did you know she had a severe injury?
No, sir. Only thing that I knew is that she wanted me to push her hard, and
Your
she
Honor,
said...
Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
As he continues to say what I want, I also wanted a drink of water. I wanted to have a seat.
Okay.
He did not allow me to do that. And
You couldn't get a drink of water?
I couldn't get a drink of water, Your Honor.
What were you thinking?
Your Honor, in my mind, I thought I was about to die.
Your Honor, I'm a trainer, not a mind reader.
That's fair. That's fair. Did you tell him that I think I'm about to die?
I told him that I needed something to drink. I told him that I was exhausted and I was tired. And I needed a break.
As a trainer, what does that mean to you when someone says, I'm exhausted, I need something to drink? What do you do?
Your Honor, we're in a gym. We're not in a prison. She's not in handcuffs. At any point, she could have went and got a drink of water or she could have sat down and took a rest. I'm simply just doing my job as a trainer, Your Honor, to push her past her threshold and to be the best trainer that I can. That's what she hired me to do.
Is it uncommon for your clients to stop the exercise and say, hey, I need a break, or I need some water, or anything like that?
No, it's not uncommon because you know what's going on with your body better than I do. I push you. If they stop, then I'm not gonna pick them up and push them and force them to keep on going. Like, they're gonna take a break.
But you're the trainer. Like, it's been years. Like, I'm depending on your expertise. Like,
so,
I don't
Ms. Baker,
understand.
you are asking this court to award you $40,000 for past medicals.
Yes, sir.
You've got severe injuries, but I want to understand them. So we're going to call Dr. Frida McCrae Fisher to explain what your kidney injury is. So, Sheriff Matt, would you get Dr. McCrae Fisher?
Yes, Your Honor.
Come on in, doctor. Thank you. Doctor, what kind of doctor are you?
I'm a nephrologist or a kidney doctor. So I deal with kidney injury, kidney failure, dialysis.
Now, Ms. Baker suffered from rhabdomyolysis. What is rhabdomyolysis?
If you have rhabdomyolysis, then you have actually ripped your skeletal muscle.
Doctor, why would her urine be brown?
Very good question. Myoglobin, or pigment, seeps out, gets into the bloodstream, actually colors the urine brown, so it can look like a cola or a tea. But in rhabdomyolysis, that myoglobin overwhelms the kidney. You get a backup. And so now the kidneys are not working well. One dangerous complication is hyperkalemia, or when there is too much potassium in the blood. When this happens, it can cause cardiac arrhythmias or dangerously abnormal heart rhythms. It can even cause the heart to stop.
So you can die from this condition?
You can absolutely die from rhabdomyolysis.
So had she not gone to the doctor, she could have died from this.
Or She could have had kidney failure and been on dialysis for the rest of her life.
Thank you, doctor. We appreciate you. You are released. You're asking this court to give you $150,000 for pain and suffering. Tell me about what you're going through.
What am I not going through? My whole life has just shifted. I don't get to do things that I was capable of doing with my children. I can't be the wife that I saw from my husband. I wanted to be a certain weight, you know, and now I'm not, I don't even want to go to the gym ever again.
So, Mr. James, how does a trainer stop this from happening?
Had she given me the information that was required, we could have handled things appropriately. If you hadn't told me to do what you told me to do, we wouldn't be here today.
When I went on the website to look for a trainer, I found him, okay? Here's what the problem is.
What's the problem?
He has all of these logos, all of these nice sayings on his website. The man is not even certified.
No, wait a minute now. Tell me why you got those badges on there, Mr. James.
False
Your Honor,
advertisement.
At the time that she sought me out,
Deceptive.
no, I didn't.
Federation of Personal Training Associates. That sounds like a big deal.
That is a big deal, Your Honor. And at the time, no, I wasn't certified in that particular one, but right now, I am certified in a personal training academy.
Yeah, I was about to pick on that one. You're now certified.
I am now certified and
That's
actually
so
take the
misleading,
test.
But you knew what you were doing.
I knew exactly what I was doing.
Would you have used him if you knew he wasn't a certified trainer?
No, I wouldn't.
Your Honor, now I did some research on my own.
Okay.
I found out that Ashley had same exact injury in her past when she was in college from doing the shock put.
Your Honor.
Now, as a trainer, I know with my trainer, before I started, he had me fill out a thing that basically gave him my history.
Absolutely,
Did
Your
you
Honor.
do that?
I had her fill that information out right along
Your
with her
Honor, that was
waiver,
10
and
years ago.
nowhere on there did she say
10
that she
years
had
ago.
a previous injury or past injury.
So how did you know that she had this injury?
I found a newspaper clip here, Your Honor, talking in detail about the
Sheriff,
injury.
if you retrieve that for me.
The injury that she had in the past, which is the exact same injury that she has now today, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Baker, this isn't your first rodeo with this kind of condition, right?
Your Honor, it was over 10 years ago. I didn't see it relevant.
It says News Today, and it says deltoid tear takes out track star for the season. And then it has a picture. That's you, right?
It is, Your Honor.
You remember this injury?
I do.
Why didn't you tell him about it?
I didn't feel the need to disclose it. It was years ago.
Did this injury lead to rhabdomyolysis?
No, Your Honor, it did not.
If you had known about this before, if she had put it on the form, would it have changed anything that you did?
It would have changed the way that I've pushed her. It would have made me watch her more closely when she said that she was feeling certain pains in her body and her shoulder in that particular area, especially since she can't recover as fast as she did back then.
I think I've heard what I need to hear. I'm ready to render my decision. In every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Ms. Baker, must prove that Mr. James's wrong caused your injuries. Here, you've put up evidence that showed that he didn't stop you when you were working out, that you thought you had pulled a muscle or had a shoulder injury, but it developed into something life-threatening. The only way that you knew you had a severe injury is when your urine turned brown and then it was a deadly situation. You believe that's his fault because he could have avoided it. Mr. James, you were doing what she asked you to do. You said, you're an athlete, you know your limits. If you want me to push you, that's what I do. Ms. Baker, you chose him partly because of the ad and the body and the titles and the badges. That's why you chose him, because you thought he knew what he was doing. Let me explain the law to you. This is a professional matter. That is, you are the professional. And while you rely on the client, or a doctor relies on the patient to say, here's what I want, here's what I need, ultimately, the responsibility umbrella rests over your head as the professional.
Yes, Your Honor.
As a professional, you're the safety net for the patient, for the client, for the student. Here, I must find you responsible because you are the professional and you made a professional decision to rely on her as to how far you were going to push her. That's something that rests with you. The other thing that kind of tickles me is you put up a website, although you did not say that you were a certified trainer, the implication, the omission prompts people to come to that conclusion. Any kind of misrepresentation of that sort is what you pretend to be, and she had to pay the price for who you pretended to be. Today, you must pay. I'm going to find in your favor, Ms. Baker, for a total award of $200,000. I find in your favor. That's my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is Haldwell versus Sanders. Mr. Haldwell, it's my understanding that you're suing Ms. Sanders for shoulder injury that you suffered at her gym while you were working out. You're asking this court to award you $50,000 for medical expenses, $23,000 for over 6 months of lost wages, pain and suffering of $100,000 for a total award of $173,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Sanders, you believe that Mr. Haldwell's injuries are all his fault. He did wrong things and he caused himself to get a bad shoulder injury.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, how long you been working out?
I've been working out for about the past 20 years, Your Honor. Working out for me is a very serious thing. I actually grew up overweight. I was always a chubby kid growing up. I got teased my entire life. I actually have my own fitness vlog.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Sanders, your gym has free weights, machines, all kind of stuff like my gym would. I go to a gym every morning.
Yes, Your Honor. I am the owner of Sanders Gym. I've been in business for 5 years now. I bootstrapped every dime that went into my baby. I used to be an athlete. I used to run track. And so when I was done with that, I went right into business and became an entrepreneur. You know, I'm just very passionate about staying fit. I've always pulled people in the community together. And I know Mr. Haldwell because he's a member at my gym.
How long was he a member of your gym?
It's been 5 years. He's been there since the beginning.
So you've been working out there 5 years before this, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I've been working out at Sanders Gym.
So, Mr. Haldwell, tell me what happened on the day that you were injured.
The day that I was injured, I went into the gym to do chest day. And I set up my camera to film my exercise, me doing a bench press. I wanted to do a max bench press. I was pushing myself to do just about 350 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
Yes, it is, Your Honor, but I would routinely do 275 with multiple reps. So what I was trying to do here was really push and challenge myself.
Ms. Sanders, did you have any idea that he was going for a personal best that day?
No, I did not.
Did you tell her that you were going to do more weight than you had ever done in your whole life?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
Did you tell anybody at the club that?
Yes, I actually did. There was an employee on duty that day who was trying to be my spotter, and I did inform them that I was going for that.
Okay, so then what happened?
I took videos, as I said earlier, and I brought that video here with me today.
Let's look at the video you submitted to the court.
I object, Your Honor. We do not allow videotaping at our gym, so please don't omit this footage because it shouldn't be allowed.
Ms. Sanders, I appreciate your objection. Usually lawyers make that objection. While your club prohibits this kind of taping, this video is admissible here because it captures the very incident that the whole lawsuit is based on. So I appreciate your objection, but I'm going to overrule it, okay? Mr. Haldwell, I'd like to take a look at the video that you submitted to the court so you can tell me what's going on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's take a look at it.
So as you can see in this video, I've started the press. I've already put the weights on, and I'm about to lift the weights directly over my chest in what's called a bench press. And again, this is the max lift. So here you go. I start to push the weights. I struggle, but right here, you can see how the barbell actually goes in between the safety rail and the stand.
Those weights could have killed you.
Certainly could have, Your Honor. It was a very terrible situation.
So your friends called 911?
Yes, my friend called 911 and they immediately transported me to the hospital, which is where I found out that I have a torn rotator cuff.
Ms. Sanders, do you remember seeing Mr. Haldwell at your gym?
Yes.
And what do you recall?
Well, on this particular day, I was in the office early doing paperwork. And I remember I heard a loud bang, but I didn't run to it because that's a common sound that we hear in the gym. You're gonna hear loud noises all the time.
People are dropping weights and things?
Right.
How did you know something had gone wrong?
Well, when I came out of the office into the workout area, I saw the barbells and the weights on the floor. And then one of the other members told me what happened. And immediately, I checked on Mr. Harwell. I called the hospital, and he said he was doing better. It was like maybe a couple days later, we sent him flowers. I care about my members.
Did you get the flowers?
Yes, I received the flowers, Your Honor. It was a nice gesture at the time. This is causing me an incredible
Your Honor,
amount.
this is not my fault.
Well, I will decide whose fault it is. Why do you think it's not your fault? Tell me.
Well, Your Honor, can we rewind the video
Absolutely.
and play it in slow-mo, and I can point out some things that he did incorrectly.
Now, I gotta check you on this. You were objecting about this video before. You wanna use it now?
Well, only since you're allowing it, I would like to point out some things that would actually
That's
help
fair.
my case.
Why don't you go to the monitor?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can see here, he's arching his back. That is improper form when you're lifting weights. There are no clamps on the weights. He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor, I did have a spotter. It was an employee of
Your
her
Honor,
gym.
if he had a spotter, they would be in the video.
And also, I might point out here that the only thing that saved my life is the fact that I didn't have the clamps on there, because as you can see, the barbell hits the safety guard and goes in between the guard and the stand. It's not supposed to do that.
Your
The safety guard
Honor.
is supposed to work.
Ms. Sanders, what else do you see in that video that you think is not good?
If you go back just a little bit, you can see that he doesn't have on shoes.
You didn't have shoes on?
Your Honor, I didn't have my shoes on at that time because I was having a hard time getting traction on the floor. The floor was very slippery and greasy, and the only way I could get that
They were
traction I needed for the
probably
lift
greasy
was to
from his
remove the
bare
shoes.
feet, Your Honor.
You may return to the podium. Mr. Hallwell, you didn't have shoes on.
No,
right?
the reason I didn't...
You don't have a shirt on. Is that how you usually did your blogs?
Yeah, so the way that we do that is we generally want to make sure that we can see the muscle groups activate as we're doing the lift.
In your feet?
And, Your Honor, the reason that I had to remove my shoes is because the condition of the floor was unsafe to do so with my footwear on. My toes were able to provide me the traction I needed for the lift.
Is that proper, Ms. Sanders?
It is not.
Ms.
As
Sanders.
the owner of the gym, I would like to point out some things that we require our members to do.
And what are those things?
Well, when they sign up to be a member, we have them sign a contract.
Your Honor, I signed the contract on an electronic tablet. And the electronic tablet was page after page after page of fine print that was virtually impossible to read, and her staff was pressuring me to sign immediately for a deal.
Your
Ms. Sanders,
Honor,
did you bring that contract with you?
Yes,
Sheriff, would
I
you
did.
retrieve the contract from Ms. Sanders? So you signed the contract?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. I signed the contract on the electronic tablet.
And Mr. Hallwell, that signature on there is your signature, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And this contract reads, Buzz Hallwell hereby holds the gym, its successors, assigns owners, officers, directors, employees, and agents harmless from all claims which may be brought against them by the undersigned for any injuries. Did you understand that?
Your Honor, you've probably been in a situation where you've been pressured into something and you didn't have the appropriate time to review all of the documents you needed.
Next.
Your Honor, Ms.
That
Sanders
was
wasn't present when I signed the contract. How
But
could she
I
possibly
trained
know?
my
How could you
employees.
possibly
Mr.
know?
Hallwell, I've consulted Dr. Hadari Brooks, an orthopedic surgeon. What's the long-term damage, Doc?
You're never as good, let me say, after this.
He could not lift the amount of weight that he put on the barbell, and he did not have a spotter.
Your
who
Honor,
would have
how
helped
could
him
she possibly
put it
know?
on very
I'm having order in this court.
The barbell hits the safety guard and goes in between the guard and the stand. It's not supposed to do that.
Your
The safety guard
Honor.
is supposed to work.
He does not have a spotter, which is required.
Your Honor.
We have them sign a contract.
Page after page after page, and her staff was pressuring me to sign immediately for a deal.
I've been through a few home closings and other things where honestly it's hard to read the documents under that kind of pressure. Is that the kind of pressure you were under?
Absolutely, Your Honor. It was almost as if I had seconds to sign the document, and they were pressuring me to get this deal.
Now, you mentioned it was on a tablet.
Yes, it
now,
was
under the law, you're entitled to a copy of that contract.
Your
Did you
Honor,
give him a copy of the contract?
Yes, we emailed him a copy of the contract so he can read it at his own leisure.
Your
Was
Honor,
it before or after he signed it?
Your Honor, with all due respect, what good is it that you send me the contract after I've already signed it?
That's a good point.
But, Your Honor, he was not rushed through this process. He had time to go through.
Your Honor,
If
Ms.
that
Sanders
was his-
wasn't present when I signed the contract. How
But
could she
I
possibly
trained
know?
my
How could you
employees.
possibly
Mr.
know
Hallwell?
what your
Ms.
employees
Sanders.
are doing?
I am very confident.
I'm having order in this court. We're not turning this into a shouting match. Direct your comments to me, please.
Sorry, Your Honor.
That's okay. Now, although the law holds you to the things that you signed, this is a legal document where you have relieved them of all responsibility. That's not the end of it. The circumstances of signing have to be considered too to evaluate the effect of the legal document. Ms. Sanders, you sent him a copy of the contract after.
Yes, Your Honor.
You expected that he would read that?
Well, if he chose to rush through that process, that was on him, Your Honor. I can lose my gym if I don't take the proper procedures to protect the gym and my members, as well as myself as a business owner.
I understand that, but you also have the responsibility to give him a chance to read it before he signs it.
Correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Hallwell, you've submitted medical bills totaling $50,000.
Yes,
How
Your
have
Honor.
these injuries affected you?
Oh, Your Honor. Physically, I'm in an incredible amount of pain. The rehab is awful. It's necessary, but it is absolutely awful. On top of all of that, I am unable to do my job. My job as a meteorologist requires me to be at a computer. I have to put input and data into a machine using my fingers and hands, and I can't do that.
Now, I gotta tell you, as a meteorologist, I get mad at you guys for being wrong now.
We are more right than we are wrong, if there's that.
That is true.
Absolutely.
But this injury has affected the way you do your job. I see that you've asked this court for $23,000 for over 6 months of lost wages.
Not only can I not do my job, I can't do any of the active things I want. My girlfriend and I, we do a lot of things like ziplining, I play volleyball. And then on top of all of that, I can't work out. And as I told you earlier, I was a chubby kid. I got made fun of. Working out saved me.
And that's why you're asking this court for $100,000 for pain and suffering?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Mr. Hallwell, Ms. Sanders, in order to understand the nature of Mr. Hallwell's injuries, I've consulted Dr. Hadari Brooks, an orthopedic surgeon. So, Sheriff Matt, will you get Dr. Brooks?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dr. Brooks,
Hello, Your Honor.
what happens when you tear a rotator cuff?
So a rotator cuff is made up of 4 muscles. I did bring an animated video that may be able to help explain this further. When we look here, this is an example of the rotator cuff coming in and inserting on the top of your arm bone or humerus. It has 2 tears. A tear here we'll call a vertical tear, and then also a tear here where the tendon inserts. We have to place sutures in the tear to repair it here. Then we have to drill holes into the bone to place anchors, which are devices that stay within the bone that have sutures attached. They then get sutured into the rotator cuff so we can cinch the rotator cuff back down to the bone.
What's the long-term damage, Doc?
You're never as good, let me say, even when we do a great repair. You're never the same as before.
Thank you, Doctor. You are released.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. So, Ms. Sanders, you see that this is pretty life-changing for Mr. Hallwell, right?
Yes, it is, Your Honor. But like I say, Mr. Haldwell is very reckless. He's dropped weights before trying to show off.
The equipment there is beyond Stone Age.
Is your equipment outdated or raggedy?
No one complained. Look, Your Honor, he did not do what he was supposed to do to protect himself. He could not lift the amount of weight that he put on the barbell,
Your Honor,
and he did not load it correctly.
Your Honor,
and he did not have a spotter
Your
who
Honor,
would have
how
helped
could
him
she
put
possibly
it
know
on the
what
rope
I'm
that he
capable
was-
of lifting?
Mr. Hallwell, I can't hear her if you scream at me.
I apologize,
Thank
Your Honor.
you.
If there's no spotter there, what's he supposed to do if he's going to do it right?
He's supposed to wait.
Mr. Hallwell, why didn't you wait?
Your Honor, there is absolutely zero policy, and nor is it written anywhere that you have to wait.
I'm talking about common sense. That's a lot of weight.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I played college football, did a lot of weightlifting. And I realized that Clint Eastwood was a really smart man. He said a man's got to know his limitations. I think I've heard enough. I'm going to render my decision. Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Mr. Hallwell, have to prove that Miss Sanders was wrong and that her wrong caused your injuries. Here, you've put up evidence that the spotter walked away, that this equipment didn't function the way you intended it to, that is, the safety rack didn't catch the weight, and you suffered horrible injuries, almost life-ending injuries. Miss Sanders, you expected that he was going to do the exercise right and not put more weight on there than he can lift. He's got certain personal responsibility. My dad would say that can't nobody take care of you better than yourself. And he's right about the law. The law requires that you take care of yourself. Here, the wrong, you've proven that. This equipment was not in good shape, but I don't think that that safety rack caused your injuries. What caused your injuries is you put too much weight on there, you couldn't lift it, you created the hazard. Under the law, if you create a hazard and then you are injured because of that hazard, you are responsible. Because the law is unforgiving in that way, despite your injuries, I must fine for Miss Sanders because you are responsible for your injuries. So I fine in favor of the defendant and against the plaintiff. That's my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. This is the matter of Perry versus Allen. Mr. Perry, from the documents that you filed with this court, it's my understanding that you are suing Miss Allen for injuries that you received in a cycling class. You're asking this court to award you medical expenses of $25,000, lost earnings of $25,000, and pain and suffering of $225,000 for a total award of $275,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Miss Allen, you believe this is not your fault. If he had followed your directions, he would not have been injured.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Well, let's get into the legal sauce. What took you to a cycling class?
Well, Your Honor, I battled being overweight most of my adult life. Recently, I became engaged to my fiance, and she became pregnant with twins. And it was kind of a big deal to me to get my fitness taken care of a little bit before the babies got here.
Women and children will motivate you.
Yes, sir, they will. So I understand that. So I started looking for a gym to join. And the defendant's gym is in close proximity to my residence. So I joined. And for 6 months, I did a lot of the work on my own. I lifted weights, I did cardio, all those things that you were taught to do. I changed my diet, and I lost a lot of weight in the process. But I hit a plateau. I got to where I wasn't losing anymore, and I wanted to go to another level. So I approached the defendant, and I asked her for suggestions. She recommended the cycling class. I went out and bought the shoes that she recommended and signed up for the classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, like she suggested.
Miss Allen, tell me about your gym.
Well, I can tell you just a little bit about myself. I've been an athlete all of my life. I was an athlete all through college. I've always wanted to open a gym. I just like the motivational factor of being able to have members who you can affect the way I was affected by athleticism. So I ended up having my own gym, and now 2 locations later.
Congratulations.
6 years later, right? Get tight, get it right is our motto.
Get tight, get it right. I like that.
Yes, that's right. Get Tight Fitness is the name of my gym. But I've been a certified indoor cycling instructor for over a decade now. So I know what I'm doing, Your Honor, okay? And Mr. Perry here is one of my many loyal clients.
You know, I've always wanted to go to a cycling class, but I couldn't deal with my feet being locked into the pedal. And my trainer told me you cannot exercise your way out of a plate of fried chicken.
No.
So, Mr. Perry, how did this happen?
Well, Your Honor, I went to the class. I put my feet in the locked pedals like we're supposed to. And for the first part of the class, everything was going really well. I was really pleased. I was getting the push that I'd asked for. And then about halfway through the class, She took it to another level and it really ratcheted up in intensity. At some point, one of the things she had instructed to me, because it was my first class with her at that level, was that I needed to always keep my eyes on her. Stay focused on her. Do what I do. That's what she kept telling me to do.
Okay.
So I'm following that instruction. And because of where I was situated in the class, I didn't have a clear line of sight. So I leaned to as we stood up, as you can see in the video, they stand up different portions of the class. As we stand up in our pedals, I lose sight of her. I lean to my right to be able to find her so I can keep up and do what she's doing. My right foot snaps out of the pedal. The bike doesn't stop moving, Your Honor. The wheels keep going. My left leg continued to rotate at a high rate of speed. Logically, I tried to put my right foot back in the pedal.
Okay.
That wasn't possible because that pedal's going loose now. It's just going at a tremendous rate of speed. So I couldn't get my foot out. My other foot twisted at an extreme level with my knee. I literally felt ligaments tear in my knee. Pain shooting through my entire leg. I mean, I was screaming as loud as I could. Thankfully, the gentleman next to me on the bike jumped off his bike, came over and helped me. I assume somebody called 911 because shortly thereafter I was in an ambulance headed to the hospital where I learned that I had torn an ACL and an MCL.
You tore 2 ligaments in your knee.
Yes, sir. Both.
You know, for many athletes, that's a career-ending injury.
It absolutely is, Your Honor.
Miss Allen, that ain't supposed to happen in a cycling class.
Of course not, Your Honor. That's how you know it's his fault, because it never has happened in any of my cycling
Well,
classes.
there's always a time when something wrong happens.
Listen, I had a full class that day, including Mr. Perry. I got on my bike in front of the class, started out, I gave them the proper instructions, keep your feet locked into place at all times until the wheel stops spinning. I gave him the exact same instructions that I gave the rest of the class.
Did you get those instructions?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. And she made it very clear that I was to keep my eyes on her during the entire time. I took that because I was new to the class, had never done anything at that level, that was critical
Your Honor,
for me to be successful.
Was he supposed to keep his eyes on you?
He was supposed to keep his ears on me and his eyes on me when he could see me. It was an intermediate class. It was not a beginner's class. I told Mr. Perry, take the beginner's class.
Why not just take the beginner's class?
I did take a beginner's class. That Monday, I took a beginner's class. It was extremely simple. If you remember from earlier, I said that I was looking for something to push me to another level. The beginner's class did nothing for me.
Mr. Perry, your one foot stayed in the shoe, right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And the wheels kept turning.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Well, couldn't that have happened in a beginner's class too?
I assume it could have, but I think the reason my foot came out was because I leaned to see her, causing my right foot to pivot, which unlocked it from the pedal.
You submitted an animation to this court. I want you to come over to the plasma screen and walk me through it. Take your time. I know that you got that bum knee.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Jeez.
So, Your Honor, you'll see in the animation that I provided, there are 2 different movements, if you'll notice. One is where I'm seated, and the other is where we go to the next level and I'm standing.
And you stand up because Miss Allen stood
Exactly.
up.
That is what she did. So you'll see me, and when I stand up, my right foot comes loose from the pedal, and that's when I had turned to look at her to see her to follow her instruction. But if you'll notice, the left foot doesn't stop. It keeps rotating. And it's at a high rate of speed. We're doing an advanced move at that point in the class, and that's where my ligaments tore.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, sir. You may return to the podium. Now, my buddy had his ligaments blown out in a college football game, and his knee blew up like a basketball right away. Did yours do that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I see you're asking this court to award you $225,000 for pain and suffering. How's that been for you?
It's been a really rough experience, Your Honor. I mean, I'm limited, I'm immobile, I can't do my job anymore. I'm a diesel mechanic by trade, which obviously requires me to be on my feet all the time. So I haven't been able to work. And it's just changed everything. I can no longer work out. Those things are gone from me for a long period of time. I'm laid up.
I see that you're asking this court to award you $25,000 for lost wages.
Yes, sir.
Miss Allen.
I got down off my bike and I walked around the whole class, making sure that they have the right posture, the right form, that they're staying in the game, they're digging deep. He was no exception, and he was doing fine. I got back up to the front of the class, got back up on my bike. No sooner did I do that and take my eyes off of Mr. Perry here did I hear, ah! And
I
all of
guess
a
you
sudden-
did hear it.
All of a
People
sudden
in the
I hear-
showers heard it.
Oh, well, yeah.
I have order in this courtroom. Y'all
All
talk
of
to
a
me.
Your Honor, all of a sudden, I hear everyone's pedals come on click, 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 and they're all running over to Mr. Perry's side of the room. All right? Now, from that scream, I immediately call 911 and get him help. That is not my fault that he did not do what he was supposed to do on
tell
that
me
bike
this,
and got
though.
himself injured.
You're the professional, right?
Yes.
You let him get into a class that he wasn't ready for. Isn't that your
Your
fault?
Honor,
Exactly, Your
I
Honor.
understand that.
Exactly, Your Honor.
Okay. And that would sound logical to everyone under the sound of my voice, right?
It does to
However,
me.
it is not my job to instruct and also babysit. This man chose to come to the intermediate class. I told him to take the beginner's class.
Why not just take him off the bike?
I decided to let Mr. Perry be an adult.
Miss Allen, I understand that you're not babysitting. You wanted him to be an adult.
Yeah.
But he's got $25,000 in past medicals. And I want to understand the nature of your injuries, so this court has consulted Dr. Jamila Gator. She's going to come in and talk to us about your injuries.
Okay, thank you,
Sheriff
Your
Matt,
Honor.
will you get Dr. Gator?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You're the best. Good day, Dr. Gator.
Hello.
Dr. Gator, can you describe Mr. Perry's injuries?
Yeah, so this is a horrible knee injury involving two torn ligaments, the ACL, which is the anterior cruciate ligament, and the MCL, which is the medial collateral ligament. Now, typically, you will get injuries to these types of ligaments when the body is in motion, but then stops suddenly.
How do you repair this kind of injury?
So this type of injury, especially a complete tear, requires surgery to put the ligaments back together again. And I've brought an animation to show how the ligaments are repaired. So this basically shows a scope view of the inside of the knee showing the damage and the torn ACL ligament right here. What happens is the patellar tendon is actually used to harvest tissue to create a new ligament. Holes are drilled from the thigh bone and the shin bone to create a pathway, and the ligament graft is then placed with sutures. From there, then they have to use bone plugs to actually screw into place to secure the ligament so that it stays. And then from there, the holes are closed, the knee is closed, and the incision is repaired. Now, this is a pretty extensive surgery and requires quite a bit of rehab.
Thank you, doctor. You're released. We
Thanks.
appreciate you. Mr. Perry, I glanced over at your face and you cringed at times looking at that surgery video.
That happened. I mean, that's real life. That's my knee.
Well, that must be why you're asking this court to give you $225,000 for pain and suffering.
Absolutely.
You've been through a lot.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Miss Allen, you see this is a huge impact on this man's life.
And he should be ashamed of himself for doing that to himself.
Your Honor, can
I watched how he was riding. It was all incorrect.
Your Honor, can I add one more?
I guess I'm just puzzled by I am puzzled by the fact that you are the professional. You are the person with all of the knowledge. He's a novice. He tears his knee up under your supervision, and you say, not my fault.
Some children have to touch fire to know it's hot. Some you can just tell them, and they won't. This man, I told him to take a beginner's class.
You know,
He
it's
chose to
that
touch
kind of
fire.
attitude that gets people sued.
I feel bad for Mr.
Well,
Perry.
it sure doesn't seem
I
like
really
it.
do. I don't want anyone in my class to be
It does not
injured.
seem to me like
My
you feel
numbers
bad, and I
are
don't want you
very
to out-talk me. This is my courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, can I add one more piece of evidence?
Sure.
If you remember correctly, I said she told me to keep my eyes on her at all time. She positioned me in the back row of the class. I brought a diagram of the class. If you'll look at the front, that's her cycle and what she was on. I'm in the back row.
Where it's highlighted there?
Yes, sir. So there's several people between me and her. So
Your
in
Honor,
order to
that's
keep my
perfectly
eye
safe.
on her during the intense workout, that's when I had to shift to the right, and that's when my foot popped out of the cycle.
Your Honor, it is perfectly safe to put beginners in the back of the
Obviously,
class.
it's not, Your Honor.
I've been a certified indoor cycling instructor for 10 years.
Can you see
He
her
can me.
clearly?
And guess what, Your Honor? Hey, I have a microphone, like I said earlier. If he can't see me, he certainly can hear me, and he chose to ignore my instructions. As a matter of fact, on every bike a caution sign is posted.
Sheriff, could you get that for me?
Yes, here you go, sir.
Now, we put it up on the plasma
yes.
screen there. I want to see it first. Let me look at it.
Okay.
It reads, caution, this bike must be used under supervision. The pedals are connected directly to the flywheel and will continue to rotate after you stop pedaling.
Yes, they do.
Do not get off the bike or take your feet off the pedals until the pedals have come to a complete stop. Follow these rules, ride in control. Did you see this?
No, sir, I do not remember seeing that warning label at all.
This would have saved your knee had you seen this.
Not necessarily, Your Honor. I was riding in control.
Folks, in every personal injury case, the plaintiff, you, Mr. Perry, you've got to prove three things. You've got to prove that Miss Allen was wrong and that her wrong caused your injuries. Your injuries are undisputed. You've put up evidence today that Miss Allen let you take a class that you were not ready for, and you blew your knee out when you should have avoided that class. Miss Allen, you've put up evidence today that Mr. Perry should have been in the beginner's class, but he insisted on getting in a class that he was not ready for. He did not read the warning, and you believe that this is not your fault. In these situations where someone's doing a self-makeover, you rely on a trainer heavily to walk you through the process and shepherd you to a better life. And you sound like a great trainer. Small heart, great trainer. Under the law, it's a concept of last clear chance. Even if Miss Allen is negligent in pushing you, in putting you in the wrong class, you have the last clear chance to save yourself from her negligence. Here, you could have gotten off this bike, you could have not gone in this class, and you would have never blown your knee out. I want to find for you and give you everything you have, but the law will not let me. I find that you are responsible for your own injuries because you had the last clear chance to save yourself.
That's just not right.
I find for the defendant, even though I don't want to, and against you, that is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned.